understanding, okay, why do I keep having this thought? Let me be curious about why I keep having this thought. Where's it coming from? Why is it sticking with me every single time I have sex? Why is it popping up? What do I think it's protecting me from? If you don't want the same thoughts to be ruminating and controlling your mind while you're having sex, then you do have to put in some work to understand them and to dive into them and pull them apart a little bit so you give them less power. Welcome to What I Love About Sex, where some incredible guests and I, Steph Kanowski, will be bringing you the tools for improving your sex life with topics such as sex issues with your partner, sexual self-confidence, premature ejaculation, sexual shame, masturbation, sharing your fetishes, orgasmic pleasure, and more. Sex is still so taboo, and I personally believe that by improving our understanding and communication skills around sex, we can enhance our own self-pleasure as well as deepening our long-term romantic relationships. So listen in, try to stay open-minded, and let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the What I Love About Sex podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can get out of your head during sex. This is such a common concern among guys especially, and it usually comes in this vicious cycle of you getting in your head and you get in your head around dick-related concerns, and then more dick-related concerns happen because you are so in your head, and it's, once again, this vicious cycle that affects a lot of guys. Because if you've ever struggled with a dick-related concern, you are normal. You are in the majority of men, right? It happens, at least occasionally. So totally normal. Being in your head is pretty normal, but it's not something you want to live with consistently. You want to be present during sex, right? You want to feel good. You want to be in the moment. You want to be feeling pleasure. You want to be looking forward to it. You want it to be a good experience. So I want to give you 3 steps I think you should take if you find yourself in your head consistently during sex. Step number 1 is listen to what your thoughts are actually saying. And this is important because so often when we hear negative thoughts, we tend to brush them off and kind of get pissed at them. And it's this other voice that's like, all right, shut up. Stop thinking that. Stop. Fuck. And we kind of just, what we're doing is we're just pushing it to the side when we respond this way. It's not effective. It's not helping us to understand the thought at all or address it. And we don't address it because we keep shoving it to the side and we're resisting it, right? We're just kind of pushing it over temporarily, which means it's going to come up the next time we have sex. And we don't want that. So what do we have to do? Step number 1 is listen to what your thoughts are actually saying. So of course, in the moment, while you're fucking someone, you're not going to stop and be like, okay, wait, I had a thought. I need to listen to it and be quiet. 1 second. Steph told me to think about this. But you are just going to acknowledge it and put it to the side and knowing that you're going to come back to it later. So even just responding with an inner voice response of oh, that's interesting. I'll get back to that. So that you can get back to the present moment. But in this sense, when you're done having sex, you want to remember what that thought was. You want to know what your consistent thoughts are because to understand them, you have to know them. You have to be familiar with them. So once you're familiar, step number 2 is understand why those thoughts are there. All right? So understanding why they're there is important because once you understand something, you can let it go. It's kind of like closure in a relationship, right? Once you understand why the person left you and how they really felt at that time, and you were so worried about how they felt, but now you know, so you can let them go. And it's this weight is off your chest. It's the same thing here. This is kind of like your own closure, is understanding, okay, why do I keep having this thought? Let me be curious about why I keep having this thought. Where's it coming from? Why is it sticking with me every single time I have sex? Why is it popping up? Why do I think it's there? What do I think it's protecting me from? And this is something you can do on your own while you're journaling because it takes work. It does. If you don't want the same thoughts to be ruminating and controlling your mind while you're having sex, then you do have to put in some work to understand them and to dive into them and pull them apart a little bit so you give them less power, right? And that might mean working with someone like me. You can always apply to work with me. The description is always in the link of this show. It may mean talking to a friend, which I know most of you guys don't do. You don't talk to your friends about this. It feels weird. It's unnatural. Maybe it's talking to your therapist about it. Maybe it's, like I said, journaling yourself, or even doing a voice note to yourself just to help you talk it out and then listen back and maybe take some notes. So these are all effective ways to pull apart the thought that's ruminating in your mind and actually doing the work to break it down and understand where it's coming from. And like I said, this takes work. It's normal for good sex to take a lot of work. And I know most people don't talk about this, but it's necessary. And you can't just have sex and then call it good or bad and never do the work to make the bad better. And I think we often get into this habit where it's like, oh, my sex life is terrible. Okay, why? There are many things that contribute to why it's terrible, or why it's non-existent, or why it's disconnected, and you have to figure out why. And once you do, and you do the work, you come out on the other side and you realize, oh, wow, all that time I didn't have to be struggling with that. All that time I didn't have to have this voice controlling my life sexually. Wow, I'm free. It's such a different feeling when you put some work in. All right, so number 1 was listen to what your thoughts are saying. Actually listen. Don't yell at yourself. Just be curious about yourself. Number 2 is understand why those thoughts are there. Do the work to figure it out. Hire someone like me. Hire a therapist. Talk to a friend. Do the journaling yourself. Just do the work. Number 3 is get clear on the thoughts you want in your head. The thoughts that you actually want, right? Because right now, if you're having these thoughts you don't want that are pulling you out of the moment, ask yourself, what thoughts do I want that would keep me in the moment? If the goal is to be in the moment, what can I think to get me more in the moment? Because pushing a thought to the side is not going to automatically put you in the moment. It's probably just going to make you keep fighting that thought and then pull up some kind of distraction mentally, right? So you want to get clear on the thoughts you want in your head. And if the goal is to be present, then maybe a good thought that you want in your head when you find yourself ruminating down a negative spiral is something to pull you back in the present moment. So maybe it's a question like, how can I feel more connected to her right now? How can I connect to her right now? Right? That's a quick, easy question you can remember whenever you find yourself going down a negative spiral that pulls you back into a forward thinking of now your brain has to come up with an answer of connection, where the end result is connection. And that's what you want, right? So I always say, ask yourself good questions, get good answers. So if you can ask yourself questions like this during sex, like in the moment when you have a negative thought that's pulling you in the opposite direction, oh, you're not big enough for her. All right, catch that. We'll deal with that thought later. How can I be more connected with her right now? And that's kind of like your trigger to go to that question that's actually going to work for you and give you the experience you want to be experiencing in that sex, in the sex that you're having, right? So come up with your own question. I like questions because then it forces the brain to come up with answers. If you just say a statement, you can have those inner thoughts of like, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. Like, it can easily just pull you back in another rabbit hole. So I like questions that bring you into forward thinking based on what the goal is. And for sex, the goal is pleasure, right? It's closeness, it's connection, it's pleasure, it's fun, it's enjoyment, it's sensuality, it's expression, it's love, it's passion, like all this stuff. So what can you ask to connect yourself with that? All right, so I hope these 3 things helped you. And like I said, if you need help doing this, I'm here. This is what I do. This is what I help guys with. Being in your head, like I said, is normal. A lot of guys struggle with this especially. And it's just a matter of controlling those inner thoughts and not bashing them, not getting angry at yourself for them, but being curious about them, coming from that calm curiosity and knowing where you're going to lead your mind moving forward. All right, that's it, guys. Have an amazing morning, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Talk to you soon. I hope this episode helped you. If it did, I would love for you to leave me an iTunes review. It would mean the world to me. You can also screenshot your favorite episodes and tag me on Instagram at Steph Ganowski. And before I go, remember, your sex life is as good as you make it out to be. Until next time.